I worked 12-hour days for years, then found out the new hire makes double my salary. I started working at Brighton Coal Logistics when I was 23. It wasn't my dream job. I didn't even know what my dream job was back then. But it paid just enough to help me move out of my parents' house and get a beat-up Toyota Corolla that only sometimes leaked oil. Back then, the office smelled like burnt coffee and cardboard. We didn't have a fancy break room or monthly team-building retreats. It was just spreadsheets, freight schedules, and phones that never stopped ringing. But I stayed. I stayed through the merger in 2018, when half of our floor got laid off, and the rest of us had to absorb their responsibilities. I stayed through COVID, coming in even when remote work was optional because Jake's reliable. I stayed when we were short-staffed and our warehouse caught fire, and I worked weekends, holidays, hell even on my birthday 3 years in a row. 12-hour shifts turned into a norm. I'd clock in at 7:00 a.m., skip lunch to cover calls, and leave after dark. Sometimes I wondered if I even had a life anymore, but I kept telling myself the same thing. Loyalty pays off. They'll see how hard I work. One day it'll matter. And then Kevin arrived. Kevin was 27, confident. The type of guy who wore smart watches and made small talk about crypto while sipping protein shakes. He had a finance degree and had done some consulting before this, whatever that meant. Our manager, Steve, introduced him like he was the second coming of logistics. "He's going to help us optimize back-end operations," Steve said with that buzzwordy smile that meant nothing and everything. To be honest, I didn't mind Kevin at first. He was green, sure, but he asked questions. I even stayed late to show him the ropes, the old internal tracking system, the undocumented hacks that helped avoid hours of manual work. He thanked me and told me I was a legend. Cool. Then, 2 months later, we had our quarterly check-in meeting. Normally, these meetings are 5-minute phone calls where Steve tells you, "You're doing great," and then reminds you there's no room in the budget for raises this quarter. But this one was in person, in a glass-walled conference room, and Kevin was in the one right next to mine with Steve and RR. I couldn't hear them, but I could see Kevin laugh, shake hands, and then slide a signed paper back across the table. "Raises? Already?" When my turn came, I asked the question as casually as I could. "Hey, just wondering, do we have any kind of system for raises? Like performance-based?" Steve gave me that rehearsed look. "Jake, you know you're one of our most valuable people. We couldn't function without you. It's just that right now, with budget constraints and the economy." I nodded. "Sure, no worries." But I was worried. Later that week, after a few drinks with Sarah from it, who's always had a bit of a rebel streak, she dropped the bomb. "Don't tell anyone I said this," she said, leaning in. "But Kevin's starting at $94. I nearly choked. "You're joking." "I wish I was. I saw the HR spreadsheet. I thought maybe you got bumped too. But you're still at 48? $48,000. After 6 years, after 12-hour days, after weekends and missed holidays, and Steve telling me I'm indispensable." Kevin made almost double my salary 2 months in. I went quiet. I barely slept that night. My mind raced, bouncing between humiliation and fury. They knew. Of course they knew. Steve approved the offer. HR processed it. No one thought I deserved more, even though I trained the guy getting paid twice as much to do half of what I did. The worst part? I still came in the next morning. I still logged on, answered emails, picked up Slack when someone called out sick. My hands moved like muscle memory, but my chest was tight with something I hadn't felt in years. Betrayal. Loyalty, I realized, is just another word companies use to underpay you. And I was done being loyal. I didn't sleep that night. My wife, Jessica, noticed something was off, but I just told her I was working on a tough case. Technically true, I guess. The next morning I walked into the hospital early. My hands were still trembling when I signed in. I went straight to the records department and used my credentials to pull the patient's file. It was all there, every scan, every blood test, every note. Except one thing was missing. The order to administer the wrong dosage of morphine. That wasn't right. I had reviewed it the night before. The dosage had clearly been marked by someone, but now it was gone. I checked the audit logo of the perks of having summit training in med school. The system showed the file had been edited after hours, by someone in admin. Someone was covering this up. Around noon, I got a call from the chief of medicine, Dr. Harold Chen. "We need to talk," he said flatly. In his office were 3 people. Him, a lawyer I didn't recognize, and a representative from HR. Dr. Wells, Chen began. We've concluded our internal investigation into the Code Blue incident yesterday. We've determined it was a system error and unfortunate but unavoidable glitch. The family has been notified, and we'd like to avoid litigation. I stared at them. A glitch? It wasn't a glitch. That patient got 10 times the morphine dose he should have. That's your opinion, the lawyer interjected calmly. But officially, there's no record of that. Chen slid a folder toward me. Inside was a document, a non-disclosure agreement. Standard boilerplate, except for the payment offer. $80,000. Sign this, the lawyer said. And this ends here. No liability, no stain on your record. You keep your job, and we all move on. I sat frozen. I'd spent my entire life trying to be a doctor. Not just a good one, a responsible one. Signing this would mean I was complicit, that I'd let someone die and said nothing. But if I didn't sign, I could be fired, sued, blacklisted. I looked at the document, then at the three of them. Chen wouldn't meet my eyes. What about the intern? I asked. Was he the one who gave the wrong dose? Chen's lips thinned. That's been handled. Handled? He's been transferred. So that was it. A cover-up, a transfer. And now a buyout. I stood up, the NDA still in my hand. I'll need time to think about this. Chen gave me a look that wasn't quite a threat, but wasn't far off. Don't take too long. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I sat in my car in a grocery store parking lot until nearly sunrise, the folder with the NDA sitting on the passenger seat like it weighed a ton. I hadn't signed it, but it felt like it already had my fingerprints all over it. I thought about the man who died, Charles Benning, 47, Rockview, father of two. He came in with chest pain, thinking it was acid reflux. He should have gone home the next day. Instead, he was dead, and they wanted to call it a glitch. That morning, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in nearly 6 years, my older brother, Adam. Adam was the black sheep of the family. A lawyer, but not the clean-cut suit and tie kind. He ran a small practice defending people the big firms wouldn't touch. His specialty? Whistleblower cases and medical malpractice. When I explained the situation, there was silence on the line. "You still there?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "Let me guess. They scrubbed the logs, edited the file, and offered you money. $80,000, I muttered. "Cheap bastards. That's the hush money equivalent of throwing you a grocery coupon. Can I fight it?" Adam sighed. "Technically, yes. Practically, you'd better be ready to burn your career down and fight an army of lawyers." I paused. "What would you do?" "I'd leak it. Carefully. But only if I had proof. Real proof. I don't have any," I admitted. "They deleted the dosage entry and I can't prove who changed it." "Then get it. Quietly. You've got access to their systems, don't you?" "I do," I said slowly. "But I could get fired just for poking around." "You'll get fired anyway if they think you're a risk. You've already hesitated too long." That hit hard. I had hesitated because I was scared, because I had a mortgage, a wife, a daughter who was barely 2 years old. But I also had a conscience. That night, I logged into the hospital system from my laptop. I used a private virtual machine, masked my IP, and started digging. I knew there was a backup server for all electronic records, a read-only archive that was usually reserved for audits and legal discovery. After 2 godin of searching, I found it. The original dosage order, time-stamped and signed by the intern. Morphine. 10 milligrams per kilogram, instead of 1. A decimal error that no one caught. Or maybe someone did. More importantly, I found the audit trail. The file had been altered 6 godin after the death, by an admin account under the name Krant98. Bingo.I. I screenshotted everything, downloaded the logs, saved them to 2 encrypted USB drives and uploaded a copy to a secure cloud folder Adam had set up for me. By the time I was done, it was almost 3 a.m. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen. Tired eyes, shaky hands. Jessica stirred when I got into bed. "You're late," she mumbled. "Long night," I whispered. I didn't sleep. I was too busy deciding whether to ruin my life or keep living with what I knew. The next morning, I walked into St. Vincent's like a man walking into court. I had the USB drive in my breast pocket, taped to the inside just in case something went wrong. My hands felt clammy, and every time someone looked at me, I wondered if they knew what I'd found. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, I got the call I'd been expecting. "Dr. Monroe, could you come to conference room B? The chief wants a word." I paused. Is this about the NDA? Just come, the voice said. Then hung up. I knew better than to go in blind. I texted Adam. They just called me in. He replied immediately. Record everything. Don't give them the original USB. And for God's sake, don't sign anything. So I slipped my phone into my front pocket with the recorder app running. Then I walked down the hallway, past patients, nurses, interns, all of them oblivious to the fact that the hospital they trusted was hiding a death, like it was a scratched wall. Inside conference room B were 3 people. Dr. Alan Krieger, the chief of medicine, Linda Carver, legal counsel for the hospital, and Michael Grant, the IT director. Grant 98. I sat down without a word. Dr. Krieger cleared his throat. We've been reviewing the case of Charles Benning, and we're concerned about the potential impact of rumors spreading. Rumors? I said flatly. Unfounded claims, Linda added smoothly. We just want to make sure the hospital, our staff, and especially you, Dr. Monroe, are protected. I looked at Michael. His eyes darted. He knew what I knew. I haven't said anything, I said slowly. But I've been doing some thinking. Dr. Krieger leaned in. And? I don't want money, I said. I want accountability. Linda folded her hands. Let me be clear. If you break your contract, if you leak confidential patient data, or suggest that our institution is liable in a wrongful death, we will pursue legal action, and it won't be cheap. There it was, the threat, dressed in legal jargon. I reached into my pocket and placed a printed screenshot on the table, the audit log, with a timestamp and username. This was pulled from your backup archive, I said calmly. It shows who altered the file, and when. That's obstruction. Linda went pale. Michael's hand twitched. You just committed a federal crime, accessing that archive, she said sharply. No, I said, leaning in. What I did was make sure a grieving family gets the truth. And now you have a choice. You can either report it to the board and the state yourself, or I will. For a few seconds. No one said anything. Then Dr. Krieger stood. You think you're untouchable? You're not. We can make sure you never work again. I stood too. Try it. I walked out, my legs shaking, my heart pounding. When I got outside, I texted Adam. They threatened me. I gave them a copy of the screenshot, but I kept the rest. He replied within seconds. Now we go public. Let me make some calls. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, laptop open, phone buzzing with texts from Adam. He'd already contacted a reporter he knew from his university days, Claire Benton, now an investigative journalist at a local news station. At 8:13 p.m. she called. Dr. Monroe. Her voice was calm, steady. Adam filled me in. I'd like to meet. I can be there in 30 minutes. We met at a quiet diner on the edge of the city. She brought a recorder, a notepad, and the kind of focus only someone who's uncovered lies for a living can carry. I laid everything out. The medication logs, the audit trail, the proof that Charles Benning had died due to a lethal error in the hospital, not only buried it, but pinned it on me through silence. You said you signed an NDA, Claire asked, tapping her pen against the table. Yes. Then if I publish this, they'll come after you. I nodded. They probably will. But they'll look worse for doing it. She leaned back. Let me verify the tech data with my own source. If it checks out, this story's going live Sunday night. That gave me less than 2 days to prepare. Sunday came too fast. At 6:00 p.m., the station aired the headline, Doctor speaks out against hospital cover-up in patient death. Claire didn't use my name yet, but she showed the documents, described the situation, and interviewed a former nurse who anonymously confirmed that Michael Grant had covered up other internal mistakes before. By 8:00 p.m., the hospital was trending on Twitter. Reddit threads were exploding. At 9:21 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. You've made a huge mistake, came Michael's voice. Your mistake killed a man, I said. And now the world knows. Click. The fallout on Monday morning, St. Vincent's sent out a press release. We are opening an internal investigation into alleged irregularities involving staff behavior and patient records. By Tuesday, Michael Grant was on leave. By Friday, I got a call from a lawyer representing the Benning family. They wanted to talk. I met them that weekend. Charles' daughter, Melissa, was quiet but strong. She said, you didn't have to do this, but you did. I couldn't say anything. I just nodded. Update: 6 weeks later, the hospital board voted to terminate Dr. Alan Krieger and revoke Michael Grant's access to any future healthcare systems. My NDA. Voided by the court on grounds of bad faith. Claire's story won an award. I'm working at a smaller hospital now, less funding, but more honest people. Sometimes, I still think about Charles. About what might have happened if I'd stayed quiet. If I'd been the kind of doctor who let it go, but I didn't, and I won't. Not ever again. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.